Lisa Capallo. Welcome to Where's Wilmington. Today I have the pleasure of meeting with a living legend and his friend. So this is Mr. Kelly. I'm sure any of you from Wilmington know who Mr. Kelly is. Our Mr. Kelly, the subject of this new book written by Rick Cook. Rick is a local writer for the Town Cry for many years, correct? And you still do a column for them called The Cookie Jar, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's my column.
Excellent. And Mr. Kelly, as all of you know, anybody who lives in Wilmington and beyond knows, Mr. Kelly is a former teacher and coach for Wilmington. So let's start off and talk a little bit, Rick, about how the book actually came to be, and then we'll talk about what's in the book.
Oh, well, about late 2007, I was doing this feature article on Coach Kelly, and throughout the article, I was quickly asking about his life, and he went over when I was in the home, and I went, wait a minute, Coach, hold up, go back. What's the home? Because I had probably known you for what, 25 years?
Sort of.
When I was at the Town
So
Crier.
meaning when he walked over to you, he said, well, my life started out when I was in the home, and you're like, hold on,
Yeah,
I never knew you were in a home. Which you were. You were in the Peabody Home for Injured and Crippled Children,
New
something
England
like
Peabody
that?
Home for Crippled
Yeah.
Children.
We're okay telling everybody about this, right?
Pardon?
We're okay telling everybody about this. Your big secret's going to be out.
Oh, gee, I blab about it all the time.
So that was the
Well,
first
it's in the book,
inkling
yeah,
that you
I never heard
had,
the story before.
that there was more to Mr. Kelly than we
Yes,
even knew.
and you know, once I began to hear the story, it took me about 6 months to convince him that there indeed was a book here. It was a very compelling story.
Right.
And I said, well, I have to tell this, and that's how we began. But it was
Began the
not,
journey.
It was not an easy sell for him,
Right.
because he thinks that it's no big deal.
Right.
So I had to kind of like gently cajole him.
Really?
to do
From
it.
what I understand, there's not a lot of gentle cajoling that goes on in your world. You're not the most gentle of guys, is that correct?
Well, that's why I carried the
That's
stick.
why you carry the big stick, right? So when Rick approached you and said, I'd like to write a book, a whole book about your life, how did you really feel about that, honestly?
Well, I told him right away that I don't think it was a good idea because books of one page don't sell too well.
Very funny.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to you than one page. You know that. Seriously, how did you really feel?
Well, I didn't think there was enough, you know, to make a book.
Okay, how many years had you been teaching and coaching?
I taught for 41 years,
Right.
and I've been coaching, I think probably 56 or so years, something like that.
So you didn't think that was enough for a book?
No, no, because other people do that too.
That's true, that's true. But I don't think gone to the lengths that you have. From what I've read in the book, which is excellent, by the way, I urge all of you to pick it up. It's really good. What I liked about it, Rick, was that I was turning pages and recognizing names of local people that I knew, people that I'd seen in the town. Steve Bjorg is mentioned in there. Kay Scanlon, who was very instrumental in getting the track named in your honor, which is really nice. And a lot of other people. Even Steve Levine from Tewksbury, who actually, I am a Tewksbury girl too. I'm sorry, but I am. And Steve, thank you. Steve Levine was 8th grade, when I was in the 8th grade in Tewksbury, Steve Levine was just hired as a coach.
Well, that's
So
interesting.
for me, hearing that name brought back a lot of fond memories. So if nothing else, the book really gives you a sense of time and a sense of how things have changed, you know.
Yes.
Have you read the book?
Yes.
What did you think? Sounds like a nice guy?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was almost that I didn't recognize him in some places. Maybe Rick had a little bit of poetic license, I'll call it. Am I right on that?
Yeah, he was a little bit, you know, how I say it, apprehensive as to how I was going to tell this, you know, because it is the complete arc of his life.
Right.
And I say he's a little apprehensive about it.
And you're a pretty humble guy, Mr. Kelly, wouldn't you say?
Well, sometimes I'm a little bit too cocky.
I heard about that.
Yes.
You and throwing things at the PA system and all of that.
It deserved it.
I
It
believe
deserved
that.
it.
I believe that.
I killed it 3 times.
Excellent. What made you decide to become a teacher?
I had a fantastic teacher in high school, mathematics. I went to St. Charles High.
Was that Sister Anata?
Sister Anata, that's correct.
Yeah.
And she was just a fantastic teacher. I had her for 4 years of math. And I made a decision, I think, by junior year that I was going to be a high school math teacher. And I said I was going to be a coach. Now, for someone who had never played in high school, you know, played with friends outside, but in high school, I think being a coach was sort of a long shot.
Right. Especially, we know that you have had a physical infirmity. You had tuberculosis, is that correct?
That's right.
Yes, and that's why you were in the Peabody Children's Home, because in those days, children that had illnesses like that, they were kind of confined. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but mine settled in the hip.
Right.
There were quite a few kids in the home who had tuberculosis of the hip.
Right. And you know, that was really hard for me to read about the journey that you took. And Rick has mentioned to me when we talked about it that at the time the care they were giving you was the state-of-the-art care. But it sounded like you were isolated quite a bit as a child. You spent how many years in that home?
I was in the home for over 9.5 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And but specifically in isolation, I don't think I was in too long. But I knew that when I got there, they isolated the newcomers for
Right.
3 weeks.
To make sure you didn't give the other kids anything, or that you didn't contract anything as well, right?
Both,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And I guess your mom could only come to visit, what was it, once a month and on your birthday, something like that?
Once a month and the birthday, the first Sunday of the month.
Wow.
And as my mother said to me once, those months that had 5 Sundays,
Right.
she said those were tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How do you think that affected your relationship with your family? I know you have a sister, Jackie, and it sounds like from the book that when you were finally allowed to come home, which I'm sure was an incredibly happy day for you, it seems like you assimilated right back into your family. But how was it for them not having you around? Have you ever talked about that?
I don't think I've talked about it. I don't recall talking about it, let me
Right.
put it that way.
So maybe it was the times, the way things were then. This is kind of how life was, and you just sort of got on with it. And that's kind of your life philosophy.
Well, that's it. You know, when you've been in there so long, let's see, how do I put it? You sort of expect it,
Right.
you know, and I'll use the phrase that I use frequently, Rick. It's no big deal.
It's no
It was a big deal. Believe me,
Yeah.
when you read it, folks, it's pretty, pretty serious stuff. I was kind of in tears a little bit, really, reading about what you went through, and I have to say that that's a lot for a little kid to live like that. But I guess, like we say, that's the way things were at the time. So you got out of the home, and then you assimilated back into traditional school systems, right?
Oh, yes,
Okay. And then you went off to college after you graduated.
yes.
And where did you first teach? I know where it is. Do you?
Well, first I taught in the Gate of Heaven High School in South Boston.
Right.
I taught there for 10 weeks because one of the nuns was sick and they needed someone to replace her. And someone had to teach mathematics and French.
Right. Did you
And-
speak French?
No, but I could read it like a bandit.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you just went with that challenge. You just figured somebody needs to do it, and I'm going to step up and do it.
Yeah, I did student teaching at Waltham High School, and the supervisor of the student teaching program at BC
Right.
came into a classroom. I was helping a kid, coincidentally, from South Boston. I was tutoring him, and the supervisor of the student teacher came in, found me in one of the classrooms. Usually I'd find an empty classroom, close the door so we could move around and talk
Right.
and so forth.
Right.
And I did that. And he said, they need a teacher who can handle French and mathematics. So I taught Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, French 1, 2, and 3. And
Wow.
I
Do you
went
still
to.
speak French to this day?
I told you I never could, never could speak it.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I saw.
That's kind of funny, actually.
I know in college in the French class, the teacher would quite often say to various students, "Posez une question," something like that, and meaning ask a question. And I was hoping he'd never ask me, but one day he said, "Monsieur Gailly, posez une question." And I looked at him, I said, "Quel âge avez-vous?" No, 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 no. I asked him how old he was.
Oh.
In French.
Well, that took care of that, didn't it?
That's why he never called on me again.
Now, you taught in Maine for a while also, too, right?
Yes, I taught in Academy up in Maine.
Okay. And that was just before you came to Wilmington, right?
That's right. I was up in Thornton for 4 years,
Okay.
almost 4 years.
So how did we get blessed enough to have you? How did that happen?
You get a lot of time.
Give me the short version, as best you can.
First of all, I'll start near the end. What precipitated my moving from Thornton Academy, I got fired as the
Really?
as the basketball coach. They had about 5 reasons. One of them, I didn't go to a clinic up in Maine, but I went to one down in Connecticut. Another one, they said, this one I laughed at. I had to laugh at it. They said, let's see, how did they put it? I couldn't get along with the kids. And I
Really?
laughed I said, if you get invited to kids' houses for supper or lunch or something, and that means I couldn't get along with them, then I guess I couldn't get along with them. But anyway, that,
None of which is in the book.
Right. So this is
No.
inside information, which is kind of good.
I kind of played down that aspect.
So
of
you
it.
left.
Yes.
You left Maine, which was, their problem and our blessing,
well,
and then you came here.
yes, but when I left Maine, I hated to leave Maine
Yes.
because I really get to like the kids that I teach.
Right.
And I remember when the headmaster called me in and said, "Frank, the Board of Trustees would like you to resign as the
Wow.
basketball coach." I said, "Well, that means I'm out of here." He said, "They don't want you to leave as math teacher." I said, "No, I work on my own terms." And it was during a free period that I had, so after the headmaster, who was a fantastic guy, I really liked him a lot, and after we talked, I went out and I walked around a sort of quadrangle that the school was on, and I walked around and I cried my eyes out because
course.
it was, I hated to leave the kids.
Right. Right.
But
But that's the only time you've ever been asked to resign a teaching position. Is that correct?
I guess so.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
that's pretty darn good in 40-something years. That is pretty good.
Oh boy,
That's excellent.
that's sort of funny.
Now, Rick, tell us where we can get the book and we can get more information about Mr. Kelly.
Sure, it's
And
the
then we'll tell
website.
folks what you see at the website. When you get there, there's some links there, too,
Yes.
that you can find out where Mr. Kelly's going to be if you want your book signed, if you want to chat with him a little bit. There's a link on Rick's website where you can get the book. So let's tell
Yeah,
folks.
the website is frankkellybook.com, and there's a actual link to the Harvard bookstore.
Excellent.
And the order form comes up, and there's also a link on the Wilmington alumni website. Also, I got some very exciting info the other day. In just 3 days, the Harvard bookstore sold out of the in-store
Right.
copies.
So what are you going to do with the millions you guys make?
So I think we're going to do
You
well.
guys going to go to Hawaii for a couple of weeks or
Well,
something?
you want to tell them, Coach?
We're going to count it.
That's good. That's good. Being a math whiz,
After
that
we
should
count
be good.
it,
What I'm doing is I'll add it to the Wilmington scholarship, the Kelly Family Scholarship that
Excellent.
I give each year. I give a couple of them each year.
Right. And there's $600 odd, a little bit more than that, right?
$763.
Okay.
The class of 1961 will understand the number.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our midpoint break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the writing process. Rick, I want to know what you feel was the ongoing theme from all the stories that you heard about Mr. Kelly. And we'll also talk a little bit about why you're a little stinker and why you wear that hat that you're not wearing today. So we'll talk some more about that. Stay with us. We'll be back with more of Where's Wilmington, our Mr. Kelly, and Rick Cook right after this.
Passing gas in the presence of others is not only inappropriate,
That is so foul.
it can be deadly. Passing gas releases a fog of carbon monoxide
Grandpa,
and other poisonous fumes that can contribute to asthma and pneumonia.
you're killing us over here.
Kids shouldn't be exposed to secondhand smoke. Don't pass gas. Take it outside.
You are looking at the cover of Our Mr. Kelly, which is a book by Rick Cook that details the life and times of a living legend, Mr. Frank Kelly, who's, well, many things actually. Rick, what are some of his honorary titles, if you will? He's in the Hall of Fame. What else?
He's in Massachusetts Interscholastic Track Hall of Fame, right? You were,
Yeah.
the Wilmington, a good guy.
Oh, right, the Good
One
Guy
year,
Award in Wilmington, yeah.
you were the Grand Marshal, the 275th anniversary parade. He happened to coach a 1974 spring track team that snapped Andover's 93 meet winning streak, which was quite an achievement for that day.
Right.
Being a small school from Wilmington High School, that was at the time was kind of looked down upon in some NBC circles.
Well, we
but
hadn't
after
won
that-
anything in a million years. What do we expect, right?
But after that time, they were never looked down upon again.
Right.
So he helped alter the high school spring track, intertrack, and cross country landscape
Right.
into town. He also began the first women's track program, and so that was a monumental thing at the
Right.
time.
Right.
Before Coach Kelly came along, this was known as a football town, and that's basically it. And he helped put track on the landscape.
Right.
He actually made running track all about having a good time.
Right.
And it wasn't always about who was
Doing
in
your
fr-
best,
yeah,
I think, is
right.
the plan, right?
Right.
You would be cheering for kids who would run the track in an hour practically, and you'd still be clapping for them, which I thought was kind of neat. And the reason you did that was because as long as they did their best, you were okay with that. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's kind of an interesting philosophy, and I know a lot of the coaches that are mentioned in the book adopted that philosophy and realized that as long as the kids are doing their best, not every kid is going to be, you know, the best gold medal winning runner, but everybody has a right to achieve their personal best, right?
Steve Levine, who's retiring now into Hooksbury, he was one of the first people that was really influenced
Right.
by Coach Kelly from his whole career.
Right.
You know, at the high school, he adopted that. Just to do the very best you can.
So how does a
Philosophy.
Tewksbury boy, meaning you, end up writing about a Wilmington legend? Because you know the Tewksbury-Wilmington thing. I know too, because I'm from Tewksbury. How did that happen? Do you think that made you more objective?
It was kind of interesting in that it probably took a quote, an outsider to come in
Right.
to who this from an point of view. I didn't have a lot of preconceived notions about Coach
Right,
Kelly.
which is
I mean,
good.
I mean, I knew him from coming into the town crier office and saying, you know, how you doing, Coach? Here's my stats or whatever. But I'd really never sat down with him for like hours and hours at a time. And one of our earliest conversations, he said, you know, is there going to be anyone else in this book besides me? I said, there's going to be hundreds of people, Coach.
Right.
Hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of stories.
Right.
You know, and they're all.
And there are.
Yeah.
And even David Boyeri wrote the foreword, which is
Yes.
pretty funny,
Yes.
talking about how you're a Tewksbury guy
Yeah.
and how ironic it is that somebody from Tewksbury would write the book. And now your first television debut in Wilmington is by a Tewksbury girl, so I guess you just can't escape that town. I don't know.
Oh, but it isn't my first television interview.
You're kidding.
You lost.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first one done by a Tewksbury resident, I hope. But we all love you anyway, whether we're from Wilmington, Tewksbury, whatever towns we're from. And you've got some friends from Reading and Waltham, too, because you've actually taught and coached a lot of different places, which we were talking about a little bit before.
In Weston also.
Yeah, Weston,
Yeah.
too. Rick, what was it like talking to all the different people about Mr. Kelly? And if there is one running theme in all of the comments that you've gotten about him, what do you think it would be?
Genuine love. He's admired virtually everywhere. You know, respect. You know, that was number one for me.
Right.
You know, because I've always, you know, respected him and admired him because I used to see him out there in the helmet, you know.
Yes, where's
"Chip,
that
come on,
helmet
Johnny,
today?
come on," you
I was
know, and so-
expecting that helmet today. You could use it with the lights in here.
Yeah, maybe I could.
Why did you start wearing that? I know people have given you helmets as gifts,
Yes.
too. What was the whole
Be-
shtick behind that? It's not a fashion statement. Just letting you know.
Oh, it isn't.
It definitely makes you well known, I'll give you that.
Yeah. I don't tan on the face.
Right.
And I used to steal Johnny McKenna's helmet that he had, and I'd put it on until he got it back, you
Right.
know. And then I started wearing one. Charlie, his older brother, gave me that for Christmas. And so I started wearing a helmet. And then when that one broke, I got another one and another. I think this is about, the one I have now, it got broken last spring. It was blown off when I was coaching up at Reading, and it fell on the hard ground and cracked. But I haven't found another one yet. I haven't looked for one, in fact.
Well,
But
I'm
I
sure
still
after
have
this
it.
airs, you'll get plenty.
Yeah.
People will be sending them to you in droves.
A lot of gifts.
Yeah.
So that's your fashion statement, I guess. You stuck with it.
That's
you
right.
like to stick with things. You're pretty much a regimented guy, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
Yes, I would say that too.
Yeah.
And what's with the walking stick? I know you need it for balance, but I understand that some folks in the town presented you with two options of walking sticks, and Tom Pizzero was one of the people who was there with Dick Searfus for that, right?
That's right. I was coming across the common from my car for one of the dinners at the 4th of July week that Wilmington puts on. And as I was coming across, Tom Pizzero and Richard Searfoss, they came out each with I'll just call it a stick. And they said, take your pick. So I looked at the two of them and I took this one. And this one was sturdier in case I had another wall with a PA system.
Right. Now,
Because-
the reason you didn't like that was because it interrupted your teaching, correct?
It interrupted my teaching many, many times.
Right.
And I threw erasers at it. And then finally one day, I was working a problem and it had 6 lines, the original problem, and then the next step, solving an equation.
Because you always got to show your work.
Oh, you're doggone right. and I got interrupted 5 times and there was 6 lines. And I was over near the window in my classroom And I had the eraser in my hand, and I just turned and fired it. I hit it right in the esophagus, as I told people. And there was dead silence in the class.
Nice.
And then I heard, and then everybody started laughing. I almost fell over, I was laughing so hard.
Now, I understand your classrooms, although they were tough. I know that you were a tough grader. You don't believe in grading on a curve, and you believe people get what they earn. I understand that. You had a lot of puns and jokes, I guess, that you entertained your class with. Would that be correct?
Yes, if they came up naturally in the teaching, naturally, I'd say that.
Naturally, I would say they naturally came up because that's who you are, is what I would say. Where did you get a lot of your material for that?
Sometimes
Hieroglyphics? Because some of the stuff you said is pretty ancient. Your material is pretty funny.
yeah, sometimes I'd read about it. Sometimes something would pop into my mind, and sometimes Reader's Digest was a good source.
Yes, Reader's Digest.
Just Kane
Right.
on the radio when I drive from Waltham to Wilmington, and he was good.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, two of the stories are in the book, which I purloined from Just Kane. And
Well, sometimes you need
just
a little
things that
levity. When you're
happen.
doing math, math is pretty serious business. So sometimes you need a little levity. Now, let me ask you, Mr. Kelly, you've been a teacher your whole life, and I would say even if you're not teaching formally, you still probably are a teacher. What do you see is different about the way kids are taught today and the way you did it? And if there are any changes you'd like to see, can you tell us about how you feel it's different being a teacher today than it was when you were teaching?
we'll just talk about math teachers.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. Calculators.
You don't like calculators?
I throw them in the wastebasket.
Really?
I'll take a kid's calculator, mosey up to his desk, pick it up, and drop it in the wastebasket.
And why do you feel that a calculator is a bad thing?
The only thing that helps is digital what do you call
Dexterity?
it?
Dexterity.
Right.
Dexterity, thanks.
So you feel it's kind of like a crutch for the kids?
No, I just don't think they don't learn their tables because they have a calculator. I was substituting. After I retired, by the way, I started to substitute, and I substituted for 12 years, only in the math department at and only at Wilmington High School. And I'd walk around the class and watch what the kids were doing, you know, from the lesson. And I stopped at this desk, and this kid who was a freshman taking Algebra 1, and he wrote down 3x equals 6. He drew a line under the 3x, he drew a line under the 6. He wrote a 3 under the 3x line, he wrote a 3 under the 6. He crossed the 2 3's out under the 3x, reached down into his bag, which was beside his desk, picked it up with a calculator to find out what 6 divided by 3 was.
Geez, even I can do that. I can.
They teach that at Tewksbury
They
now?
did?
I
I
might-
went to the tech, so you
Oh,
can't
you
get me
did.
there.
I might struggle with that still, Coach, to this day.
So you feel it debilitates the student then, really? From doing concrete thinking because they're using the calculator to get the answer.
Yeah, that's it. He said, the kid was a nice kid, and he said, I just wanted to check it.
Cute.
But
What about the style of teaching? Because in the golden years when you were teaching, teachers were able to hug kids. You could be more of a family figure to the kids than you can now. I think there were things that you might have even said to the kids then that you would never get away with saying now. Times have changed. How do you feel about that?
I do things the same.
You would do things the same.
Yeah, I'm stubborn.
I can see that.
I tell people I do things the same now as I
Because I
did
know you
then.
must have had some parents who weren't too pleased with some of the grades their kids got in your classes,
Oh,
right?
but that's different. You're talking now about grades. Yeah, one of my favorite stories. Can I use a story that's from the book, Rick?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. It was the first year I was teaching at Wilmington, and we had open house, and I was putting my coat up in the closet. It was first or second week in December. Marks had just come out. kids had received their marks. I was putting my clothes out, my coat in the closet, and the back door of my room opened, and this lady came in and said, "Mr. Kelly, I'm so-and-so, and I don't like my son's algebra mark." I said, "Mrs. So-and-so, neither do I." And she stopped, and she looked at me, and she said, "What can we do about it?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "Your son is too interested in being one of the boys. He's not interested in working hard on his subject." And she said, "Well, you know, we chatted a little bit more about it, and that was fine." She wasn't pugnacious of anything like that. I had her son again his junior year, and she came in at open house again, and she said, "I noticed he passed this term." She said, "Did you give him the mark or did he earn it?" I said, "Mrs. So-and-so, I don't give anything, they earn it." She said, "I was hoping you'd say that."
Right.
And that was it.
And imagine how the student felt, knowing that he actually had achieved that grade
Oh,
through
yeah.
his own, merit, through working. That's really great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I was pleased. You know, I didn't antagonize the kids for the most part. Many of them knew that I was teaching a tough subject, and they had to really work for it.
Right.
They had to work and do their homework
Right.
and ask questions. Very seldom did I answer a question. They would ask me a question, and I'd ask questions that would lead them up to answering the question themselves.
Promoting cognitive thinking, which you need for math, which is
Oh,
excellent.
that's a big word. I never used those
We'll
big
look it
words.
up after we get
Oh,
done.
okay. All
You know,
right.
you did say that you never really gave anything, but I'd like to correct you on that. I think you gave a lot of love to those kids because you've never been married and you never had, let's say, a family traditionally other than Wilmington. And this book talks about you making Wilmington and the kids and the people in this town your family. So I would like to say that you did give something. You gave a lot of love and time, which is something that, you can't put a price on.
That's right. But
Yeah.
because I enjoyed teaching so much, I had a blast.
Right.
I
But
had
that doesn't make you a loving person.
No.
What I'm getting at is your nature and your spirit, I think, is genuine that way, and I can feel that. And I just wanted to make a point to tell you that.
Oh, well,
You know?
I appreciate that.
Well, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
thank
say
you.
that to you. You're welcome. Rick, what was it like for you editing all of the stuff that's in there? I mean,
Well-
you must have had stuff that you had to leave
Yeah.
out. Is there going to be a sequel
Well,
to this?
what is good about is at Harvard I can go back in at any time and add to it, but he had such a vast life and a great life, and he's still here, and
Right.
he's still coaching, and he's
Right.
still affecting thousands of lives, and what you just mentioned that he is a real genuine person. He's honest and forthright, and what really ultimately attracted me to this is that he's never given anything to anybody unless he truly believed you're going to work very, very hard to get there.
Right. You're a testament to the American values that we hold dear, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. I think not only reading the book and learning about your life and people in the town, there are some lessons in there, some life lessons about traditional American values that I think if we return to some of those, and I don't want to get all political on us, but if we return to some of those, I think the world would be a better place if we went back to some of the things that you live by. What's next for you, Mr. Kelly?
I guess I'll go home and eat supper.
That's good. Beyond that, any
He
big
eats
plans?
very late some nights.
Any big plans for you? I know you've got some book signings to do,
Yeah.
some touring coming up maybe to do.
No tour.
You never know. You never
The
know.
retired, you want to mention some of the things we're going to be doing?
Yeah, that's next Tuesday, isn't it?
Well,
So you've got some events coming up.
yeah,
You have the book.
retired
The book is going to be
teachers luncheon and
yeah.
the Rotary Club.
Oh, right, you're going to be speaking at the Rotary Club, and
Yeah.
you have, I think you have a book signing or an opening at Rocco's.
Rocco's, that's going to
which
be
is going to be early in the
huge.
month of
That's
October,
gonna be-
right, or middle of October.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge night for the town.
Right,
Huge night for the town. So
right.
Yeah.
Anything else you gentlemen would like to say before we close our program today? I want to thank you both for being here.
well, I like to say that it was just a great 2.5 years.
2.5 years it took you to get this done, huh?
I-
How long was
out of
the
my
editing
life.
process?
Editing was probably another four months.
Wow. So we'll have to do a second book, Mr.
'Cause he
Kelly, to
actually
make you stay
filled
around for a few more years.
2 digital tape recorders. I had to go out and
Wow.
buy another one. So now he owes me for $42.
All right, well, we'll take care of that after the show. We'll make sure you get that check written. We got to get some glossy 8x10s for you to sign, too, because I'm sure you're going to have quite the big fan club. But make
8x10?
sure you wear your hat for that.
Well, he has one now. He has that one now, huh?
Yeah, we can do bigger than 8x10 if you want.
A fan club.
Yeah? Oh, he does? You have a Mr. Kelly fan club?
Well, that could be next.
Wow. Well, you know,
He's
you can still
horrified
get
by the
married.
thought.
There's still
Yes.
time, you know.
What's that?
You can still get married. There's still time.
Shall I give my phone number?
I think we can do that. We can put that on the screen. That would be the one thing you haven't done yet that you could do. Now, that
right.
would be something. That would be
Matchmaker.
something.
Yeah.
I'll DJ
about
that
that,
for
huh?
you. I do that on the side.
That's me.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for all you've given to the town. I can't speak for everyone, and I never had you as a teacher, but from what Rick has shared and from you being with you today, I just really want to tell you I appreciate what you stand for.
Thank
And I
you.
thank you for being here. Rick, thank you for taking the
Thank
time
you,
out of your
Lisa.
busy schedule to be here and share this,
you.
and also to write the book. You know, it's nice to have a legend here that we can physically feel, touch, and see. Usually these kinds of things are written posthumously, but we're really glad that you're here to share it with us. So we thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. The information on where you can pick up the book is going to be on the screen for you. When you go to the website, you'll also be able to see where Mr. Kelly will be in the flesh if you'd like to see him and hear some anecdotes and share with him some of your life experiences that have happened to you if you had him as a teacher as a result of his many teaching experiences and throwing erasers at people's heads and all those wonderful things. But do take a look at the book, and it's a really good read. It's fun. And I just thank everybody for watching, and I want to remind you that the next time somebody asks you, where's Wilmington, you tell them right here and right here on WCTV. Thanks for watching.